It seems to be very good, okay? So turn to the page which begins with page 3. It says Yomim Shelofnei Pesach. You all have it?
Yeah.
Okay, Aleph. Lamed Yom Lefnei Chag, 30 days before the Yom Tiv, Doshim Bilchas HaChag, we start expounding upon the laws of the Yom Tiv. V'lochen yesh lilmod Hilchas Pesach, one should learn Hilchas Pesach, ad sheyeh boki behem, till she's a boki, an expert, v'yedes ha'maisa sheyasa, and to know exactly what needs to be done. Kol shloishim yoyim lefnei ha'Pesach, toiv lizoir, it's good to be careful 30 days before, ula'ayim b'chol davar she'oisa, to be particular about everything that you do, shelo yeshoyer davar boy chometz, there should be no chametz left around here, there, and everywhere. But often shall yuchel lasira bekalus, in a manner that you won't be able to get rid of it easily. Kishiagia erev Pesach. So in general, just be particular of not leaving around chametz here, there, and everywhere. Beis yesh lizoy machilas matzah lamayim v'nei Pesach. One should be careful of not eating matzah 30 days before Pesach. Koil gam matzahs mechuna, including kosher machine matzah. Even though many of us don't eat machine matzah, nevertheless, if it's kosher lePesach, you should not be eating it 30 days before. So let me say that, for example, this Pesach Shabbos, which was already technically after 30 days, less than 30 days, I saw in shul matzah crackers. And we ate from it. Why? Because they're not kosher lePesach. Now, people, what about egg matzah? And egg matzah is something that's very convenient, especially if you have children in the house, and the week before Pesach, and people are used to eating matzah, challah, all that, so a lot of people eat egg matzah. So there too, since the halacha says that egg matzah should not be eaten on Pesach, unless someone is not well. So for most people, it's acceptable to eat egg matzah 30 days before. Okay? Because for most people, they would not be eating that on Pesach. But any matzah that's kosher for Pesach should be avoided. Hainu mipurim ve'elach al manashe yeh lonu ti'oven. And what's the reason? What's the reason for this law? So that we should have an appetite, ti'avon. Le'echol matzahs b'layla harishon shel hachag leila seder. So we're preparing ourselves for appetite 30 days before. That's one of the reasons. Gimel. Minig Yisrael le'esof kesef lekras chag ha-Pesach. It's a custom to gather funds to buy the tzarchei hachag, matzahs, yayim, basar, v'dogim, u'niskokim, and to gather such funds for people who need help. V'choiv al kol adam lishtatev b'kach. It's an obligation. And this Shabbos, a very big Talmud Chacham spoke in our shul, and he pointed out to us that amongst the 9 virtues that the Rambam lists for giving tzedakah, Maos Chitim is not mentioned. Why not? Because it's not a tzedakah, it's a mas, it's a tax. If you look into Shulchan Aruch, and the Alter Rebbe actually says it's a mas. A tax was put on every Jew to give Maos Chitim. So it's not tzedakah, it's a tax. That's why he uses the word here again. He wrote the word chayva. It's an obligation. It's a chayv. The chayv al kol adam lishtativ b'kach. Everyone should participate with whatever, And let's go further. Min haroyu afleidas hanoshim o hagufim hamatrimim. It's proper, he says, to know the people that are need al mishpachos aboidim are doing klitzrachim. Okay, I don't know if I agree with that. That's his opinion. Why must you know the people? And if you don't know the people, sometimes the mitzvah is even better anonymously, Anyway. But I guess what he means is that if you know people that are nitzrachim, you should go out of your way to make sure that they have all of their needs. The Rebbe, you should know, spoke about this so much. for years it was only Pesach time because it's brought in halacha. But then the Rebbe in the late Lameds, I believe, started to talk about it in the 70s about Tishrei too. But Tishrei, we don't have the same halachic obligation. Here we're talking about Pashat and halacha, not talking about in spirit and minig and it's nice. We're talking about in halacha. So Tishrei, I don't think you could say it's a halacha. I mean, some want to stretch it, but I'm talking about pashtus. For the average Jew who opens up a Kitzur Shulchan Aruch or goes to a drasha, it's the chayiv for Nisan and not Tishrei. And the Rebbe spoke a lot about it, and we should all, do this as frum Yidden. Everyone a little bit, everyone in their own way. Let's go weiter. Dalit, mitakonas haRebbe l'shtadel l'shleich l'chakapesach l'makireim. The Rebbe was very particular to send to those that he knew akolponim lasdorim for the Seder matzahs agulis afuyis avidyad hand round matzahs. V'dafke matzah shmura. And specifically matzah shmura. Gam yesh lidoik avur aktanim ki matzah inyon emunah. This is his opinion, and he's saying that it's that it shows for ktanim because the idea of matzah, the Zohar says, it's a Zohar michla demnusa, it's food of faith. V'tzrichim lavedak al zeh kfar mekatnus, and you have to work on your faith even from when you're still a minor. So even ktanim should eat from the shmura matzah. B'Zohar nema sha'matzah nekras b'shem michla demnusa. And Zohar says matzah is called food of faith, Michael Emunah, food of faith, v'michla das vasa. It also says matzah is called the food of healing, Michael Harafua. V'lochein yesh gula miyuchedes lachilas matzah v'Pesach. It's a sgula. Now here we're talking about not a mitzvah avi, a sgula, a remedy to eat matzah on Pesach. Shehi mechazekes es ha'emunah. It strengthens a person's faith. Umarpas es atchoyim b'nefesh. And it cures people who have mental issues. You should know that Rebbe had matzah in his drawer all year round. And not that he was eating matzah during the afternoon for his lunch. Maybe he did, but that there were people who came into him with all kinds of issues, and the Rebbe took out a piece of matzah and gave them, they should eat in the middle of the year. So, I'm just saying, matzah has curing powers. So, especially if you get matzah from a tzaddik, a rebbe, whatever, you might want to keep a piece for when you need it during the year. Yes, Yaakov.
Isn't there an Indian, the afikoman is a shmira?
The afikoman too. Yeah. But I'm saying, in general, the statement here is about matzah in general. You're talking in particular about afikoman. Yes, absolutely. Let's continue. We'll see if we get there what he says about afikoman. But Moishes chinuch kedai kvar memei purim in educational institutions this in Yom Pesach. They should learn that v'chein lahadik v'natil ketzad Seder to teach the students how to make a Seder v'sakayir on a plate v'kach yechku b'zichroinam hilchos akshurim b'dvarim meilu. And I want to say that I've seen by adults, they come to the Seder and they don't know how to make a kaira. Now it says, and the Rebbe did it this way. The Rebbe, when he made his kaira, it sounded and it felt like he's learning like the Aleph Beis. He would say the words of instruction in the Haggadah. Yisader, Kohen, Levi, Yisrael. So he took a matzah. Kohen took a matzah. Levi took a matzah. Yisrael. And this is how he built his kaira, right? Now he did that because the Rebbe, he learned pshat that the Alter Rebbe wants you to say that as you prepare your kaira to make it significant. And that's the way Chabad does it, just for the record. That's the way those that follow Chabad minig should be making their kaira. You come home and you set up your kaira by saying what you're doing. And it would be nice if people who are your family and friends who are joining you for the Seder would see this and participate. But what I'm saying here is that it looks bad to me, when someone comes to the Seder and they don't know, they're like scattered. It's so, it's not the way you should come to a Seder. And the way to do it is you need to take time the night before, the day before, the afternoon before, and organize in your head the order of the Kaira. So you, especially if you're the leader of the Seder, you're leading other people. And people, I remember when the Chabad house, when I led public Seders, I did that with the people. So that I was the leader and they were following, and it had cohesiveness, and it adds to the dimension and spirituality and beauty of a Seder. And to do that, you need to prepare. That's it. And what I'm saying is, even someone who might know, but they forget. Oh, what goes now? What goes now? You know what I'm saying? And being that it's once a year, we tend to forget. So if you prepare, it'll flow easier and nicer. Yes, Moshe.
Rabbi Dalvin, good question. Regarding the Kara, according to Minhag Chabad, we obviously have the Kara. Just remind me, the matzahs, the 3 matzahs. Do they have to be placed? I mean, can they be like I don't have a kara that is like elevated that you can put the matzahs underneath. So I always put the matzahs, I have the kara, and then I have the matzahs, the 3 matzahs, one on top of another.
No.
How do you do it?
No way. The 5 items, the 6 items need to be on top of the matzahs.
Okay.
So the way to do it is, first of all, it's so inexpensive. Buy yourself a cloth kaira. What's the big deal?
What do you mean a cloth kaira?
There are kairas that are metal, then they have cloth, with 3 separations, and Kohen, Levi, Yisrael. You've never seen those?
No, I have that.
Okay, so you put your 3 matzahs into that, and on top of that, you put the 6 items.
Okay. But how do you avoid then the 6 items not breaking the matzahs?
First of all, you don't slam them down. You put them on delicately, and if any of them, because since Chabad is very particular, Hasidim in general are particular about shruya, about not wetting the matzah, it's best to put each in a little plastic cup or on a napkin. So that it doesn't seep through. So we started to use these little plastic saucers, very small ones, right? So let's say therefore, if the romaine lettuce, if you're using that, which is Chabad custom to use romaine lettuce as well, is still wet, you don't want it to seep through into the matzah. So you should definitely put something under it. Now, if everything is dry, you won't have an issue except for one thing, the charesis, because the charesis is supposed to be a little damp. But regardless, in other words, when you have this cloth, there's a separation between the top matzah and where you put the 6 items on, right?
Yeah.
So you have a separation technically. I just was adding that you might want to also have a little plastic saucer or a napkin under the item so that it doesn't. Also, it helps you that it shouldn't roll off. Sometimes, because the matzahs are, especially Chabad custom is to take, we'll see soon, a matzah that's like a keli, so that tends to make the items roll. And if you and then you don't have the 6 items. And according to Kabbalah, you're supposed to have 2 segels. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The setup of the items is made based on the 2 segels. So you want to kind of keep that till you start partaking from the items. And what I find is either a napkin or a little saucer is helpful for that.
Okay.
Everything else clear for everyone? I'm not saying this is everyone's minhag, but this is the Chabad minhag. If you want to follow that, this is it. Okay. Now, let's go back. Number Vov. Kama pomim oirer harebe bedover kedayis achona hagodas chadoshes leyodim ketanim. He writes that the Rebbe suggested having new hagodas for the young children. Shatir lechol yedra hagodas shaloi. I don't know why he says chadoshes. If it's from last year, I guess he means maybe if you give them a new hagodah, it'll excite them more. Whatever. That's already an expense. But that every child should have an hagodah is important. Kemuvin hagodah, kemuvin hagodah no uvot siyurim sheyim shchos liboy, with pictures. Kedei sheyeda loy rak es ha'aba kushiyas elagam es atiritz l'kushiyas. In other words, right? It's a story. Man, there's a question, and then comes the answer. Avodah mayinu. By the time we get to the answer, are the kids following the answer? So he's saying that if you make the Haggadah interesting, if the actual Haggadah is colorful with pictures, you could create that the child is interested in knowing what the answer to the questions is, because we don't want to remain by the questions, right? It's a suggestion. Let's go on. He says interesting things here. Okay, this is some of it's his own. Matoif shel fnei achag. Or he says you should buy a new Seder Chodesh. Why a new Seder? Because the halacha is you're supposed to buy kloyas veguzim. Walnuts. You're supposed to. Why walnut? Why? Because to give the children to play with. Today we give them chocolate. A lot of people chocolate. Kosher Pesach chocolate. The point being to get them to be involved and to stay up and to. So he says if the halacha, but the halacha mentions that this idea of buying kloyes ve'eguzim, walnuts, is not a fairy tale. It's brought down in halacha. So the Rabbi Buket is saying that if this is true for buying kloyes ve'eguzim to excite them, surely if you buy them a new siddur or a new haggadah, it'll excite them as well. Okay, let's go on. Noyagim Zayin, Rosh Chodesh Ve'elech. Sunday's Rosh Chodesh. From Rosh Chodesh Ve'elech L'Kroya, we start reading after Chakras, after Tilim, for those that say Tilim after davening. Parshas Hanasi, which is the Lubavitch custom. The Parshas Hanasi, Shehikriv Boy B'yoyim. Every leader of a tribe, a Nasi, brought that day Karbonis. Hayoyim Maschilim Vayihi B'yoyim Klos Moshe. The first day we begin, but it was the end when Moshe finished erecting the Mishkan, Umesaimim, and we conclude Zeh Karban, Nachshon ben Aminadav, Shevet Yehuda, Uvayim Yud-Gimel, on the 13th day of Nisan. We read from Mizois Chanukah Sabeyas, Ad Keinos Asamenayra, this is all in the Siddur, Shehu, Keneged Shevet Levi. This is corresponding to Levi. But on the 13th, we do not say the Yehi Ratzon, which we're going to talk about in a moment. So for the first 12 days, we read the Nasi, right, each day with the Yehi Ratzon. On the 13th day, we read also a section from the Torah, but we do not say the Yehi Ratzon. Why? Because there's only 12 tribes. There aren't 13 tribes. But the 13th day is that the culmination and the sachakol, the totality of everything that was brought. So we read it. But we do not say a Yehi Ratzon. Ches. L'kreis Pashtim b'Sefer Torah. Okay. Now, you probably have been to shuls. I don't know how they do it in Eish Kodesh, Moshe. Do they do it this way? They read the Nesiim from a Sefer Torah. Is that the way you do it in Eish Kodesh? No.
No.
Okay,
no.
But you know that there are many shuls that do that way.
They used to do it by Bateiran.
In Bateiran, correct. So he says, Lo no kena Rebbe Rayas, the previous Rebbe didn't, so it didn't become a Chabad custom. V'yedu asher hanegoysev hayu. It's known that the customs of the previous Rebbe, next page 4, Kahanogas aviv ulomayla b'kodesh, knows he followed his ancestors, so it wasn't a Chabad custom. Test. Acher amiras hanosi aimim yehiratzen anitzut b'siddur. We say the yehiratzen that's printed in the Chabad Siddur. Uboy maskirim eshem hashevet shenosia ikrev b'isa yoim. You mentioned the shevet that brought the carbon that day. V'gam kohanim v'leviim oimer oisei gam b'shabbos oimer oisei. Also, those that are kohanim and leviim say this yehiratzen, and even on Shabbos it said. He says in Yud, Medivri Rebbe, the Rebbe once said this, Nasa Chalishas Rachmansa Mikiya Aminit Amiras Hadesiyim. The Rebbe once spoke about there's been a slowdown, a breakdown in the carefulness of saying the Nesiyim daily, and especially the Yehiratzin. So the Rebbe spoke about Umitzvah Lechazik HaMinik. It's important to strengthen that minik. But often the Chamurim alive, the Chamurim alive, the Chazal say that to say it with such love, because greater is the love for the words of the sages than the words of the Torah. And this is even more emphasized when it comes to minhagim, Jewish customs, to show a great love for them. Therefore, to make sure to say it. Everyone agrees. Right now, we're in the middle of feuds. The shul that I daven in, say tachton, don't say tachton. We're in the middle of the 7 days of miluyim. Chav Gimel, Adar, till through Lamed Nisan are the 7 days in which the Moshe prepared for the establishment, the erection of the Mishkan. It's called the Shivas Yimei HaMiluyim, the 7 days of training. So there are many people, Hasidim in particular, who don't say Tachton that day. Chabad does and others do. And sometimes you can get into a big issue in shuls. So that's then. But when it comes to Nisan, it's a halach in Shulchan Aruch. No arguments. The whole month, 30 days. We don't say those selections of davening that are normally not said when we don't say Tachton. Why don't we say Tachdun on Nisan, through Nisan? Because most of the days are special days. Yud Gimel, Bas Cholas Chodesh Nisan Tzorach Kol Yehudi Lahakris Aidei Anogav Apoel Shemekano Lahaba. When Nisan comes, every person has to announce Misnaid B'Anogav B'Chayav Hayim Yomis B'Efen Anogav Nisis. Interesting. Everyone has to live miraculously during Nisan because it's the month of Nisan. There are certain things throughout the year we can't do them, we feel we can't do them, but now, since it's the month of Nisim, you have to make achlata kind of to live with Nisim, with miracles. Okay, this is his own thought, which is a nice thought. Yud Gimel. Right? We learned in the very beginning that the halacha says you're supposed to learn and ask, learn about the laws of Pesach 30 days before Pesach. There's another opinion in Gemara Moshe. He says only 2 weeks. We don't follow that one. We take the opinion of a month. He says you could even fulfill the opinion of Reb Shimon ben Gamliel that the 2 Shabbosos, in other words, not this Shabbos, the following Shabbos and the following Shabbos should be more special in your learning. Okay. Yudalit, he mentions that on the 2nd of Nisan is the yahrzeit of the Rebbe Rashab, the 5th Rebbe. He passed away Motzei Shabbos Vayikra on the 2nd of Nisan, 1920, and he lies in Rostov Al Nar Don on the Don River. And it was the day when the previous Rebbe became the leader of Lubavitch. Okay. Tesvav, kol echad ve'echad, every single one of us, men and women and children, should utilize the opportunity to learn Torah and do tefillah and tzedakah and have farbrengens on that day. Then he speaks about Yud Aleph Nisan. It's the Rebbe's birthday, it's a special day, good, but I want to skip that. Go to page 5. Yom Chamishi, Yud Beis Nisan. So this year we're fasting Tainas B'Chayre on Mukdam, right? We're doing it on Thursday because we don't fast on Friday. Whether you're a firstborn to your father or to your mother, Misanim we fast. Because we memorialize the nest that was done, the Makas B'chayres, the firstborn. The firstborn of the Egyptians were killed and not the Jews. And the custom is that instead of fasting, that's the minig, the B'chayrim should participate in a Mesiyim or B'chol Sudas Mitzvah. It doesn't mean you have to just have a siyum of a masechta. If there's a bris that day, or a pidyon aben, or an edison, it's considered a sudas mitzvah. So as long as you participate in that, it's also accomplishing that you don't have to fast. You're exempt from the tainis. You don't have to just finish a masechta in Bavli and Babylonian Shas, but even in your Jerusalem Shas. It's important, I'm sure you've seen this and done this, and you know that even young children who are under bar mitzvah should come to the siyum. And you should eat something from the suda. Now, a suda normally a suda means washing, but people are mekel and they don't wash and they have a cookie. And today many people don't even give mezainos because it's already Pesach dik. So you have macaroons, which is shahakal, right? So, but it's fine. It's fine for the siyum. What if someone didn't go to a siyum and he forgot to fast, and Friday he remembers? Should he fast? Nope. You don't fast out of Shabbos.
But the fast is. But this year it's Thursday.
It's Thursday. I said, what if someone forgets?
What if someone forgets? It's Thursday.
So he does not fast on Friday. If someone didn't go to a siyum.
So he on the bechor, but you have to make it up if you didn't fast. I think it's this question.
Is it?
What it says here, he doesn't give a reference. I don't believe so. He doesn't fast. He missed the fast, dude.
He missed it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Let's go to Leil B'dikas Chometz. Leil Yud Gimel.
Let me just ask you a question. On that note, then.
Yeah.
If a person's a bechor and he doesn't go to a siyum, he doesn't go to Suda's mitzvah and so forth. So Mistama, he would have to fast.
Yes. You know that there were some people who fasted anyway. I think they say the Rebbe fasted. The Rebbe was a bechor.
So someone in Chabad though, it's not. I mean,
no,
obviously.
No, the regular person doesn't do it. I'm just saying that, I think I heard that the Rebbe did it, and I'm sure there were some that, were very, whatever. I don't know.
Okay.
But we go to a siyum and we don't fast.
Okay.
Leil B'dikas Chometz. Leil Yud Gimel. Thursday night this year is B'dikas Chometz. Hachonas 2 weeks from tonight. Before you do bedika, you have to clean your house. Sometimes people make a mistake. What if it's not clean? Technically, you can't do bedikas chametz yet. It's not right. Bedika is I've already cleaned, and I'm going to search to see if there's anything left. But what if your entire kitchen is chametz the Thursday night this year? You don't do bedika until you get it clean, and then you do bedika. And I know there have been, over the years, there have been people who have done that. Their house is not yet Pesach dik, and even though it says in halacha you should do bedikas chametz right after Ma'ariv, that's if your house is already ready for bedikas chametz. But if you know it's not, you could do bedikas chametz 4 a.m. You understand the logic? There's a logic to this madness, excuse the expression. It has seichel, bedikas chametz, to search for the leftover things. Not for obvious bread and pizza. I want to eat pizza Thursday night. Okay, eat pizza, but you can't do bedikas chametz. When you have bedika, clean out your pizza, finish your supper, and if everything else is ready, fine. I'm not going to say that this applies, by the way, to, let's say you have to still kasher. If you still have to kasher your oven and your stove, whatever, that's different. That's not chametz be'en, lying around. So I'm not going to say that, I won't say, unless some Rabbanim do say, but as far as I could see, you still should do bedikas chametz at the beginning, after Ma'ariv, even if you didn't kasher yet your oven. Because that's not chametz be'en. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, let's see what he says. Chav Beis, Mam Dikas Chametz Oil Shleish Yosem Miyad Ach Tzisek Chavim. Okay, Tomen Lachat Fil Sarv Shat Tzibur. Yeah. Chav Gimel, Lefnei Amadika Yesh Lirakes B'Mokem Mameshumen Meyiladim. Before the Badika, gather everything that's Kol HaChametz Emilin Lachila. Oh. Now, let's say you want to eat the next day chametz. It's fine. He just says, so gather it all to one place. So then this is where it's at, and you understand. What I was saying before is if things are a balagan and still all over the place. But if you have a designated place for a certain amount of chametz to eat for tomorrow morning, that should not stop you from doing bedikas chametz and time. And be careful just to stay to that corner and that place to finish your chametz. Shake off. Every time you eat, it's probably best to do that on the porch or outside, so it's not in the house. The children shouldn't scatter all over. A little while before the dika, you put throughout the house 10 pieces of chametz. The Arizal explains that the 10 crowns of spiritual impurity are represented by these 10 pieces. Okay? Now, I want to make, if someone doesn't have 10 pieces, you search without them. The 10 pieces is a minig, and an important minig, and here you have a reason that the Arizal gives. But, for example, people that travel, they go to hotels and they're traveling here. There are a lot of people traveling, especially here, I don't know how it's in Eretz Yisrael, but in America, people are running all over because they're COVID, right? You have to make bedika. No, what are you going to carry 10 pieces with you? So you make the bedika without the 10 pieces. The 10 pieces are not, what?
Ma'akiv.
They're not me'akiv. They don't stop you from doing you have the chiyuv of doing the bedika without the 10 pieces. Yes, you're innocent. I'm sorry? It's not, it's not a bracha levatala. The bracha is for the searching, Yonason. If you don't find anything, you've done the act. The bracha is for the search. It's not a bracha levatala. That's wrong. That's not right what you said.
Okay.
The 10 pieces is a minig. And the Arizal gives us a nice reason. We're removing 10 aspects of spiritual impurity. Wonderful. But it should no way be a substitute for the mitzvah of bedika. I mean, I have this case with some of my daughter and their friends. They're traveling with a Seder, and they're going to rent a room, right? No, so I suggested they bring along a pita or two, whatever. But I'm saying even if not, you make a bracha on the bedika. Okay, v'shiyu aptita mechametz kosher. It should be hard chametz. Kol echad mehem korach pieces, not wrapped in a piece of paper, not in silver paper, because tomorrow you want to burn it. The silver paper doesn't burn. Kol echad mehem pochas b'ksayas. Why is that? Why should it be less than the kazayas?
You're not chayav.
Right. Very good. Look what he says, Moshe. He says, because the chiyuv of bir chametz b'daraisas of a kazayas. That's what Yaakov said. Right? There's a mitzvah tashbisu, right? Get rid of it, right? That's only the chiyuv of daraisas on a kazayas. So he says, when you put them all together, you have the chiyuv. Hayolodim yarchu rishima heichen henichu es p'tika chametz. Whatever he says, children, why don't get your children involved? Let them write down where they're put. They should be put. You should put them in the corners. He says it's better. You don't have to hide them in churim zdakim because you'll forget. Imagine a child, your grandchild hides it somewhere in a zdak in a corner and then forgets and you don't know, and that's it. You have a piece of chametz in your house. So it's best to put it in more of a noticeable place, he says, in a noticeable corner. Okay, it's just a recommendation.
What we do, we take a piece of chametz and put it in a plastic bag, a little bag, and then we tie it with tape.
Okay, that's definitely being machmir, and it's good. Good.
No, because we don't want it to go all over.
Right, let me just read number 25. Kaidem habdika yesh medaktim litel sideyem. Oh, now this is important because it's actually brought down in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch that before you do the mitzvah, bichlal, before you do any mitzvah, you're supposed to wash your hands. In halacha, before you do a mitzvah, you're supposed to have yadayim nikiyos, pure hands from tumma and everything. So it's brought down in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch that you should wash your hands before you do the b'dika because you're doing a mitzvah b'dika without a bracha. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. Gamu b'kaf in the kaf hachayim sheyesh l'shtadel litvo mikvah b'boiker sheyem dikus chametz. Okay, interesting. Dafka the kaf hachayim for the Svardim, he says that you should, the morning of dikus chametz, you should go to the mikvah as a preparation for the mitzvah. But that's not brought in the Shulchan Aruch. But he says the kaf hachayim says it. No, it's here, the Svardim, right? Look, if the Kaf HaChaim says you should go to the mikveh, it doesn't say it in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch or, anyway. Okay, Sunday, there won't be shir because we're changing the clock here in America and it's Rosh Chodesh, so I just won't be able to make it back in time. So we'll continue with Hashem on Monday. Are you happy with learning this? I know it's not Chassidus technically.
Yes, very much so.
Okay, but I just feel it's good to go over, and we have to be Mekayim what it says. So Avi, I hope you're following and appreciating it. And the thing is that even if you're eating with someone else at a Seder, it's good to know these things. You know what I'm saying? If you're eating someone else, and again, always to be careful not to embarrass anybody, even if they do something wrong. I'll end with a story, I think it was 1945, and Rabbi Dr. Nissim Mendel, the secretary of the Frierdiker Rebbe, the Rebbe told the story, and he was a very honest man, so I believe this. I believe the story. He said, it was in 45, one of the years in the 40s, at the Frierdiker Rebbe Seder, upstairs in 770, in his apartment. So there were people there, Chitim that ate, a group of them. Someone came, and he wasn't particular about and he wetted his matzah. I don't know who he was, how it was, when it was, but and another chassid started to say, no. And the Frierdiker Rebbe like picked up his head and like what's going on here? And he said, it's shruya, wedding the matzah, it's matzah shruya. And the Frierdiker Rebbe said, matzah shruya is a minig, an important minig that we and others keep, but there are others that don't keep matzah shruya. Embarrassing a Jew is an avera. It's such an important... What?
A deraisa.
A deraisa. It's such an important story, especially when it comes to the Seder. Things get sometimes intense, especially those people that are like, oh, we have to get it all right, and they get all, they want to get every detail right. Kol hakavod. But don't do it on your wife's expense and your kids' expense and your guests' expense. And it's hard sometimes because, the pressure and the timing, and we got to begin, and the clock's moving, it's like, and meanwhile, you can embarrass someone. So it's very important to, just let things ride. Don't freak out. And I'm talking to myself, because, I'm very particular, and especially when I had Chabad house and I had public Seders, the people didn't keep Shruya. No one's keeping that. They wet their matzah. And I let them, because that's the way, I'm saying. Or with the bags, with eating, whatever. I'm just saying, we have to really be calm, and in a nice way, in a private way, Okay, Chevra, have a good Shabbos, a good Erev Rosh Chodesh. We should have Nisim miracles, and we'll learn together Mitzvah Shem on Monday. Sei gesund, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye. Take care. Shkoyach.